Welcome to the Tail Slate. Today we are talking Star Wars The Force Awakens, which comes out on digital on April 1st and I think Blu-ray April 5th, so it's coming out again soon. And we're going to be talking about the characters, what were our favorites, how they had an impact on story, and so on. And I'm with Matt Campagna, writer-director, Brian Trerice, sci-fi fan and comic book fan. And I guess, first of all, I want to find out your opinion on the movie as a whole. Star Wars The Force Awakens, thoughts?
I enjoyed it to the point that I would call it my third favorite Star Wars movie.
Awesome. Brian?
I'm one of those many people who hated it.
You did not hate it.
Many.
You
Are there
did
really
not
many
hate
of
it.
you?
I
think
don't
there's
believe you.
there's like you and 3 other dudes.
Well, then we're all posting a lot on the internet.
You're very busy.
I'm going to have to pull up my lightsaber and kill you. I loved it. I'm not sure if I would say it's the best Star Wars film, but I think at the moment it's my favorite.
Fair.
I do really like it. And a lot of that is to do with the characters that were in it. Story-wise, we know a lot of it was a rehash of Episode 1, or sorry, A New Hope, Episode 4. But that didn't bother me.
No, that added to how much I loved it, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm the opposite. I wanted something new, didn't get it.
Well, what were your thoughts on the prequels?
The prequels,
They were new.
Well, they were new, but the thing is, I didn't like them. Like I was turned off by the movies. However, what Lucas was trying to do with them, the fact that he tried to expand on the universe.
Admirable.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I
cool.
think, just on the prequels, I think you could have had almost the same story with a different director, different writer, and they could have worked way better.
Yeah, there were a bunch of directors that George Lucas went out to because he wanted people to direct episodes 1, 2, and 3, and they all said, "No, George, you need to do it." And I got to tell those directors, you were dead wrong.
Idiots.
Those movies were garbage.
Yeah.
They were so bad.
And actually, to be fair, I don't think they're as bad as Star Wars fans say they are. If they existed before any of the others, we probably would go, those are pretty cool.
Well, the problem is that Empire is so good.
Yes.
And then, Star Wars and Jedi, and then 3, 2, and 1 blows a hole through the table because they are so bad. And I would have to say, up here in the wow, those are amazing films, that's where I put The Force Awakens, because
So you're probably Empire, A New Hope.
Empire,
Force
and I
Awakens.
think A New
it's hard
Hope,
to decide
the
between
thing
those,
for me
right?
is the historical significance
Star
of
Wars.
a New Hope,
Yeah.
the abilities that we created as filmmakers by
Yes.
doing that. George Lucas killed it,
Yeah.
and then it's hard to say that anything but Empire is better than that, because Jedi kind of jumps the shark pretty
It does a
quickly.
little bit, yeah.
But I think The Force Awakens puts it right back on track, and it's what Disney had to do.
Oh, absolutely.
In order to tell everyone, it's okay, guys.
Yeah.
We got this Star Wars thing. It's not gonna be like those prequels that you hated. It's gonna be a lot like what you did like. And then they went ahead and made the movies we liked again.
They did it, and it was fantastic.
Yeah,
yes.
right down to the film stock. JJ tried to find film stock that looked as much like the first Star Wars film as possible, just to make sure he could get the texture of it right. He can make a better Star Wars movie than George Lucas at this stage.
Yes.
Because he clearly knows what we want. George Lucas wants to give us something new, and sometimes that's not what we want.
Yeah.
Certainly not as Star Wars fans.
So let's talk about the characters in this, because that's what I really wanted to focus on in this. We had obviously returning characters, we had some new characters. In my opinion, most of the characters worked extremely well in this. But I want to basically just go through the list, and we'll talk about how they were portrayed. Did you think they worked? What you liked about them, and so on. So let's start with Princess Leia. She comes back in this film, and thoughts, did her character work? How did you feel seeing her again?
Underused.
Yeah, I would have liked more of her. I mean, Carrie Fisher has been absent from the screen for so long that this was a triumphant return, and I would have loved to have seen more of her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to admit, I agree she was underused. There was a lot more they could have done. It's one of the scenes that I got most emotional was where her ship lands and Han's walking up and the doors open and they play her music and you see her and you start getting choked up. You're like, oh my God.
Because you hear that music cue.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because throughout the film, Williams has beautiful music cues, but then you hear that Han and Leia melody and it's just like, music gets you. And that's where movies like Batman, the new Batman and Superman films
their
aren't
music, yeah,
understanding
exactly,
that
yeah.
there are iconic themes for these characters. You bring them in. You don't get some hack to write something that doesn't sound nearly as good. Sorry, Hans Zimmer, not as good.
So that's one of those great scenes in there.
But the one thing that pissed me off was when it came to, it was after, spoilers, Han's death. And what happened, and this is where they were it felt like shoehorning the new characters in. It's like they come back after his death, and you have Chewbacca he doesn't go over to Leia. It's like those are the two who've known him the longest.
Yes.
And there's nothing. It's Rey. She goes running over. It's like, oh, he died.
Actually,
It's like,
I was reading that J.J. Abrams has admitted that was a mistake.
That was the one thing that
yeah,
he
It
was.
was a mistake.
Yeah.
And now it would have been fine, except they have that shot where Chewbacca is taking care of Finn, and he walks right past Leia.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
weird.
If he wasn't in that shot, you probably would have assumed in your head, okay, they must
Something
have had
happened
their
off
moment.
screen. Yeah.
But it's because that, and imagine how emotional that scene would have been had
Oh,
they
that
had
was
a
it.
moment
That
together.
was it.
You would have been, people would have been crying.
To me,
it would have
there's,
been amazing.
there's been two big mistakes made cinematically between characters. It was that one, and it was in The Watchmen. There's that scene with Night Owl and Rorschach, where Rorschach's just being a complete dick to him after they've just rescued him from the prison. And there's a great scene in the comic where he's like going, he flips out on him. He's like, do you know how hard it is being your friend?
Yes.
And they didn't do that. And it was like, that was
You needed
beautiful.
it, yeah.
That would
Yeah.
have been perfect for the scene.
There are certain moments that you can
Yeah.
feel their absence.
And again, they missed it with this one.
Chewbacca. I mean, Chewbacca's Chewbacca.
He has one of the biggest, most difficult decisions in the whole film.
Yes.
And that's to shoot his little nephew.
Yeah.
And he does it, and it's
Does
brutal.
he shoot? Did you think he shot to wound?
I think he shot to wound, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Absolutely.
Given the fact what we've seen that bowcaster
Yeah.
do
Yeah,
earlier
well,
in the
that-
film.
Yeah, that bowcaster can shatter everything.
Well, I
it
love
can.
yeah, like
Yeah.
you see him when they first get into the base, and he shoots that one stormtrooper, and the
And
guy
shatters
goes
him.
like 20 feet.
Oh my God! And there's just like broken glass from his terrible costume.
Yeah.
But the thing that I found most impressive was the fact that after that damage that's incurred onto Kylo Ren, that he can get up and fight at all is
Yes.
amazing.
Yes.
So people who are like, oh, he shouldn't be able to be fighting a
when we get to
stormtrooper
Kylo,
and
I want to touch on that because that's
that bowcaster is the key to
Yeah.
all of that making sense.
Han Solo. The
It was-
scene where he and Chewie come on the Falcon and you see them again.
Okay, everything leading up to that was stupid.
Like
but-
the whole movie.
Well, yes, but specifically,
Hey, seeing the Millennium
specifically-
Falcon
no, no, no,
itself
but-
was pretty amazing the
No,
first
no,
time.
but-
The garbage, the pile of garbage.
Yeah.
Find the garbage will do. Yeah.
No, but the whole thing where it's like out of the entire galaxy that they're in, they just happen to be nearby and they find him. But okay, fine. When they get there though, when they walk on, it's like, Chewie, we're home. It's just like, okay, I hate this film, but yeah, that was cool.
That was a beautiful moment. But I gotta say, all of Star Wars relies on constant just convenience and circumstance.
Oh, for sure.
So I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah. but Han Solo himself in this, kind of a deeper Han Solo, I think, than we've had before. The
Yeah.
things that he's dealing with.
Well, and it's interesting
Well, he's
because you
had a
see
lifetime.
his
Yeah.
and you see his attempt to still be that scruffy nerf herder, but he still wound up being a man who had lost his son in a way. And when you started to get beneath the surface, there was some really cool stuff going on there. And I really enjoyed the way we got into who Han was. And I think setting him up and killing him, you have to make him the character from the old series in this in this particular film, so that you can make Kylo Ren that much more detestable.
Yes.
And I think they did a beautiful job with Han. He was emotional bait, and I fell for it.
That's cool. I took my nephew, who is 12, to see it. He had seen the previous Star Wars before, so he knew who Han Solo was, and he was just so pissed off that they killed Han Solo.
Yep.
It was gonna happen.
We went the opening weekend, and as we're walking out of the theater, he's about to start yelling and screaming about, I wish they, shut up, you're going to be killed by all these people in line who haven't seen it
God.
yet.
Oh, you're
But
about
yeah.
to.
You'd be a Homer Simpson.
But that was, actually, I was surprised that the I mean, the scene has a lot of emotion in it, the scene where Han is killed. But I didn't feel the emotion there. It was later on that you feel it, which I thought was kind of good, because in a situation like that, if you're the characters in that, you don't have time to grieve right away.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could see the glassiness in Kylo's eyes. You could see that this was an incredibly difficult choice. And you're right, as a viewer, you don't really clue in to the ramifications.
Yeah.
Like, it took me a bit of time to calculate Chewie shooting Kylo and the idea of how Chewie probably helped raise that little boy jumping around the Millennium Falcon. Like, there's also a deleted scene that I'm so excited to see.
Oh, where he goes on the Falcon.
About Kylo Ren on the Falcon. And so that is going to be really neat on this Blu-ray release. I'm looking forward to that.
Captain Phasma, a lot of people were disappointed with her because I think the character was built up a bit like a Boba Fett character. Now, is that the fault of the movie makers or the fault of the marketers?
I think it's I think she's absolutely a perfect reenacting of what happened with Boba Fett, because when the first Star Wars film happened, the executives were all worried that they were overexposing Darth Vader, and so this whole idea of Boba Fett happened because they wanted a second Darth Vader that they could be like, that they could build up, and then look at what he does in Empire Strikes Back.
He doesn't do much at all.
He does virtually nothing. So I feel like he's basic. I feel like Phasma delivered in every way that Boba Fett did in Empire.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that it felt like there is probably some deleted scenes where she may have been doing more.
Hopefully.
It just feels like there's something missing.
Like in the scene where they come back from the opening slaughter, and she's like, "Oh, report to my command," and that, and there's nothing. Nothing ever comes of that.
Yeah.
He doesn't turn his weapon in for checking. He doesn't.
Well,
go
he goes
report.
and finds Poe and.
Well,
saves him
no,
first.
but I mean that's the thing is that did nobody sit there and go, where's Buddy? He's supposed to be here by
where's
now.
FN? He's missing.
Yeah. And,
sorry, I was going to say.
I was just going to say, just to flush that out a bit more. It's just with Phasma, there was a lot missing, just in the sense that you were right, she was built up, and I think that's the fault of the filmmakers, because if they were, I don't want to make this like this. They're trying to push a feminist agenda or something. That's not an issue. But I think the reason she's in there is, they wanted this strong woman villain, and they built her up that it's like, ooh, it's Captain Phasma, and then she's like instantly captured and thrown into a garbage scow.
I love that.
A garbage chute.
I liked that she was the first of all of the characters to be confirmed for Episode 8, though.
Yes.
So that
you
made
know we're getting
that
know
was
she's
nice.
gotta come
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. Snoke. Probably the weakest part of the movie for me.
Well,
Yeah.
I just hope that is where the interesting mystery is. I hope
Maybe,
that's Darth Plagueis.
I think it is.
That it's got to be, because otherwise there's no symmetry to the 9.
Yeah.
And these 9 episodes, as much as 1, 2, and 3 are garbage, they are a part of the story. And until someone hires me to remake them, I guess they're just going to be there. And so the thing for me is that setup of, okay, who created Anakin? Where did Anakin come from? The idea that maybe this is the creature, that Snoke is the guy who made Anakin, and that means he is far enough down the road, he's the one responsible for the existence of Kylo Ren. And so I find that all fascinating, and hopefully that's the direction they go, or something that nobody's thought of yet that is equally interesting.
Yes, I was going to say I'm good either way, as long as it works.
As long as it pays off, man.
Well,
Exactly.
I think what it was is that it is Plagueis. He did create Anakin to eventually create the Chosen One, because he's going to take over the body. I think he's a spiritual being. He's a member, part of the Force, and that he's trying to create the Chosen One
That
to
he can
have the
inhabit.
most powerful body. And I think the deke out here is that everyone's going to think it's Kylo Ren. It's like, no, Kylo Ren, it's Rey, and Kylo Ren is made to be
A pawn.
No, not the pawn. He's there to be the kiln in which she's forged.
Interesting. Then we have more minor character, General Hux. I've heard some people complain about him.
I gotta say, that actor is killing it.
Yeah.
Gleason, the guy was in Ex Machina, he was in Brooklyn, he was in Star Wars. The guy just managed, I don't know which devil he made a deal with, but his career is on fire. And he was in the Harry Potter films, he was one of the Weasleys. That guy I really, really like his work, and I'm looking forward to seeing more Hux.
I didn't mind. Some people were complaining that he seemed over the top, and he was no
Hitler-esque.
worse.
He
worse.
was supposed to be though.
Well, exactly. No worse than a little bit more over the top, let's say, than Governor Tarkin, but still, that same kind of vein of.
Well, now there again, like if you look at what people are complaining about, where it's like they just take the old movie and they do that's who it is. It's General Tarkin as a younger guy. But in this time, he's given more time. He's making the speeches, and they're showing him leading, and that I did like about the movie, is that they show a bit more of the militaristic side of it, rather than just simply here's the main characters and they're the big bads, and that's all you deal with.
Yeah, because you always got the impression that Darth Vader controlled something, but then after Grand Moff Tarkin died, then as soon as Empire was happening, all these other films. Without Tarkin, the Empire fell apart. It almost has nothing to do with, like, what happened in Empire Strikes Back and Jedi was kind of inevitable because Tarkin died. That guy was the only reason it worked in the first place. So I like seeing a young Tarkin sort of character, and Gleason is just fantastic. So I was really happy with Hux.
Poe Dameron.
I loved Poe.
He was
great.
Yeah, he was the goofy kind of. What's his name from Guardians of the Galaxy?
Star
he
had the
Lord.
Star-Lord
kind of
kind of.
person,
Yeah, he's the goofy guy who gets out there. He's the ace pilot, the handsome leading man. And again, I think it was a bit of a fake out where you think he's going to be like one of the lead guys, and it's like, no, he's not actually.
Yeah, he's got a few scenes and he's neat.
And I liked him. I was. In some of the trailers, I think I'd seen him, and I didn't know what to make of him, and I thought, who knows? But I did enjoy his character really good. And it'll be interesting to see where they take it to. I'm sure he's going to have a bigger role as things go on.
I'm waiting to see what they do with him, because in this one, he was a fairly minor character. Like, I know he was important, but for the amount of time he had, he seemed to be minor.
Considering this is film number 7 of a series of films based on the exploits of strapping young white man and his friend, strapping young white man. It's really cool to see that the strapping young white man is a secondary character to an awesome black man and a fantastic woman. This film, for me, was in every way a modern Star Wars film, and it's because of those two characters.
And speaking of Finn, great character.
He was great. He was also a great fake-out. Because all the ads, you see him with that saber, and you're like, oh man, there's going to be this wicked fight.
And he's going to be the one with the Force, and he doesn't have it at all.
I'm disappointed. He's the new C-3PO. Because if you look at it, no, seriously.
He's just worried.
Well, yeah, like he's the one who's always like, oh, we got to get out of here. They're going to kill us. And then he's the one who's also talking with BB-8 all the time.
Funny.
But
he's the one who's always like, no, you got to back me up on this, right?
He's still willing to risk his life to do the right thing.
Well, so C-3PO.
Well, it was good to see.
3PO, by the way, was good in this film. They gave you just the right amount of
just enough C-3PO, yeah. I liked that Finn had an arc in this film that took him from being a frightened, not a clone soldier, but some kind of plucked from birth, raised by the Empire to be a stormtrooper machine. And I liked watching him go from frightened to brave. That to me was a beautiful arc for his character, and that the payment for him being so brave was being put in a coma at the end. I like that there was stakes, but that's what happened to Luke at the end of 2.
To me, I just wished there'd been a little more time to it, because it made no sense that he's. Well, I don't know if he was born. I think he was kidnapped as a child.
I got that impression. Yeah,
probably.
All of them were kidnapped, and that. But as a basically he was a child soldier, and who's just now as an adult still a soldier, and I thought, okay, that's kind of cool that they're doing it that way, and I want to see what they do with this guy, but then he after this emotional beginning to the movie, he becomes comic relief for the rest of it. Where he's just,
I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, come on.
He did. He certainly was in moments, but I don't think that diminished his character.
No, I don't think
because
so either.
Star Wars films have that levity, and as much as it began,
not if you start off with the guy being like this deep character, like a deep tragedy. Obviously, he's lived through, and you see his friend get killed, and smear the blood on his face. I mean, like, oh my God, and then it turns around, it's like, oh, I worked in garbage sanitation, and oh my God, I got to get out of here. Oh, and he just becomes the C-3PO of the movie.
There
And
was
it's like,
there was an unevenness
why?
to the tone of the character, but I feel like it began and ended in a space that had stakes,
I
and
think
to
so,
me
too.
that gave it symmetry that worked for me.
So then we have the big villain, Kylo Ren. I was worried about this character from the trailers. I thought, oh, they're just doing another Vader. But it makes sense now. When you watch the film, he wants to be another Vader.
Yeah.
So the costume makes total sense. It's not just, oh, they're just giving us another black costume.
Yeah.
And I think he's one of the more interesting characters in this.
Oh, he's everything
It's
I wish
amazing.
Anakin was.
Exactly, yeah.
He's such a great, conflicted, unstable whack job. And I loved every moment of his like angry, pissed off, childlike rage. I just thought Adam Driver killed it. I love that moment when he took off his mask, and against all expectations of what you think is going to be under one of these horrifying masks, he's just that guy from Girls. You know,
Yeah.
kind of weird looking, kind of handsome, you're not really sure. Neat character on that guy's face. I really enjoy that actor, and I thought he just nailed it. And his vocal patterns, that's what Bane should have sounded like.
Yeah,
It's
that's
got
true.
that wonderful voice synthesizer thing going on, but it's so crystal clear and just imposing. God, it was good.
Well, to me, he was just a fanboy with power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But but to me, that's a bad thing.
Oh, it's great. That's why he's such a great
to-
villain.
To me, see, a lot of the writing in this movie felt like fan fiction. It felt like, oh, you know, we're going to do Star Wars, but we're just going to do it bigger because we're going to have like the Death Star, but it's going to be a planet and it eats suns, and you know, it's like, okay, that's not an improvement. That's to me, that's a lack of imagination.
Kylo's
It's like we're
character, though-
going to have Darth Vader, but you know, he's just cooler. He's like a, you know,
Like
he's
emo Darth
me.
Vader.
He's like
Well,
me. As Darth Vader, it's
I
like,
think,
whatever.
I thought he was great. I mean, the fact, right from the beginning, you realize he's probably more powerful than Vader as well. I mean,
stopped
you've never
a
seen,
blaster.
Yeah.
seeing them stop that blaster was,
That was
amazing.
wicked. That was one of the only lens flares. I gotta say, JJ did a good job
Yeah.
of limiting
He
the
learned.
lens flares.
He
learned.
He had some, but
One
that
there,
was a good one.
But that instantly makes you think, oh my gosh, this guy's powerful. And he's unstable. And that makes
Yeah.
him, in a way, scarier.
Yep.
And yeah, no, I really liked it.
I missed the fact that Darth Vader had class. When he showed up in the scene, everyone was like, "Oh my God, it's Darth Vader! Don't make eye contact."
But he's a
there
different
was-
character. He's a different
Yeah.
character.
No,
And
I
yet,
know, but
that
the-
fear that made that gave him that interesting. That crazy warlock's showing up. They had some beautiful moments like that, but for Kylo, it was his rage, not his power, that they were
but
afraid of.
They ruined it though. It's like what's the scene where he's flipping out and he's like trashing the place after Finn gets away, and remember he's got his saber out and he's destroying
Yeah.
the place, and that's fine. But then they ruin the moment because you have the two stormtroopers walk around the corner and went, oh, turn around, walk back
I
around the
thought
corner.
that
I
was
gotta
brilliant.
say,
Oh, that
I gotta
was
say,
good.
for somebody who does not like how similar Star Wars 7 is to 4, 5, and 6, you really dislike the dissimilarities that 7 has. When it goes away from the off
No,
the
it's
reservation,
not
and it's not
about
quite
that.
Darth.
It's not about that it's different. It's about the fact that they've taken it like a scene where it's like, okay, this is supposed to be an emotional scene, and just like with Finn, we're supposed to be an emotional character, and they make a joke out of it, and it takes away all the power from the scene to me.
I disagree.
See,
I thought that scene worked well.
like for me, it's like you can't have a horror comedy movie and call it a horror. To me, it's like you
Oh,
can't
I
have,
don't know.
Oh no, you can't because
I
then
don't
it's
know
not
about
horror.
that.
You're not scared. If it's
No,
not
you
a,
can still
if
bat
it's
him.
comedic, if you're laughing at it, then you're not scared. So
American Werewolf in London created the genre of horror comedy that is both horrible, horrifying, and comedic. And I feel like there was a very delicate balance walked on this.
They
When
did,
you
'cause it was
first see
separated,
Kylo
though.
Ren hunker down, and then Poe Dameron's trying to get out of
Yeah.
there, and that moment we're like, do I talk? Do you talk? Who,
That
who
was
goes,
brilliant.
who goes
But no,
first?
it's-
To
I
me,
get it.
that was
That-
what made it feel modern. What made
Yeah.
it feel like it was a product of today. And part of the clunky, garbagey bits of episode 1, 2, and 3 are this false sense of austerity that is
taking
built
itself
in-
too seriously.
Yeah, and it's like there should be some product of our of 2015, 2016 in a film that comes out at that time. And I think if you really want it to connect, there has to be. And moments like that, moments like when Kylo Ren was told bad news and he hacked the
Yep.
crap out of that console and then he turned around and said, anything else? It just left me. I was laughing before that joke because I saw it coming.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
was such a good joke. And I just feel like those are the things that keep a film, it gets you on the edge of your seat, and then it makes you go like this and relax, so you can get right back on the edge of your seat again.
Let's talk about Rey.
Hands down, my favorite part of this movie.
I was going to say, too, my absolute favorite character, I think, in the whole series. And you know what's interesting? I relate more to Rey than I ever did to Luke Skywalker. And I mean, first of all, she's a woman, which normally as a guy you're not going to relate to as well as another guy. So
And all the toy manufacturers would tell you
Oh,
you're wrong.
exactly.
Because boys will only relate to boy figures.
Which is all bullshit.
Come on.
Best
this is
character ever.
2016.
Yep.
She was fantastic. I gotta say. I mean, I was raised by my mother and my grandmother, so all my writing, all my films have these interesting, strong, not even strong, just interesting, complex female characters. And that's something Rey was. As much as she was strong, she was also afraid. And
Yes.
she was, and I think that balance she had of being powerful, because even before we found out about her force sensitivity, she could kick the crap out of things. She was about to
Yes.
be rescued by Finn, and then he was like, oh,
Yep.
well, I guess she's fine.
And there have been people complaining, oh, how could she know all this stuff and be so good? She's been living on this planet on her own since she was a kid, having to fend for herself. So she's got that natural ability.
Not the first time she's beaten up
Exactly.
a raider. Yeah.
She's been listening to stories about the Force and other stuff from people coming through this, whatever town she's in. So she would know about things like the Force in stories of Luke Skywalker and so on.
It looks like she built her own vehicle, basically, on
Probably,
Jakku.
yeah.
So the woman's a pilot.
She's a scavenger. Knows the technical stuff.
Yeah.
And she has the Force naturally. Probably more powerfully naturally than any other character we've ever come across. She doesn't know that she has it.
Well, look
so
at
when
Anakin.
she starts realizing it, she's got it.
As much as I hate referencing The Phantom Menace, look at Anakin. The way that kid pilots a pod racer is because he can see things happening a moment before they do.
Yep.
And that's why a lightsaber battle looks as cool as it does. Not because it's choreographed, because they're all looking a moment into the future, and that's why it looks so cool. But I feel like a lot of that factors into who Rey is.
Yeah.
And the fact that she recognizes that she shouldn't be able to pilot the Millennium Falcon, and then she can, goes a long way to just hang a lantern on it, man. That really works for me.
Yeah, exactly.
See,
And
now, again, though, this is the thing. She has nowhere to develop. I mean, she's already perfect with the Force.
No, she's not.
no, she doesn't know how to control
She's-
it.
Yes, she does. She was able to turn it back on Kylo Ren.
She would not have beaten Kylo Ren if he hadn't been injured.
No, not that. I'm talking about with the mind.
Oh,
meld.
well, no, but that's cool. She's
No,
naturally
it's
strong
not.
with it.
No, being naturally stronger does not mean that you naturally have better technique.
To be fair, Jabba the Hutt couldn't be mind tricked. So a lot of it comes down to being a weak-minded fool. So
Yeah.
I think that's a really big trick here. The fact that she was able to read something naturally in his mind was pretty cool. But the idea that there's just something inherent to a certain species or inherent to a certain power that a person has, Jabba the Hutt's not trained.
No.
But you can't mind trick him. And
Yeah,
that's a
but
hell of
that
a
doesn't
thing.
mean you can use the Force.
That's true.
No,
I mean,
but
that's
she
what I'm saying
can.
is that, yeah, I know she can, but I'm saying, that's like saying, oh yeah, like I could go out and say I was 100 pounds heavier than Bruce Lee. Oh, I could beat him up, right? It's like, no, I mean, Bruce Lee's a better fighter, or was a better fighter than me. He could beat the crap out of me if I was 200 pounds. So what? I mean, it doesn't matter just because someone's stronger doesn't make them
Yes.
better.
But she also has those other abilities that she's gained from living where she's lived and the life that she's
But that
lived.
doesn't
And
mean anything for the
Snoke,
Force.
but Snoke made it clear that his training was incomplete. So
Sure,
perhaps
but he
part
had
of what,
training.
but perhaps part of what was incomplete was his ability to control those smaller, more careful things.
Plus, she's not sure it's going to work. Like when she does the mind trick on the stormtrooper, who is Daniel Craig.
Yeah, that
it's
was
so
great.
great watching it, listening to his voice.
wasn't expecting it
She's
to work.
heard stories of people doing this.
Yeah, but there
So
again, that's
she's trying it.
What? Okay, so if you're told stories about how to fly a plane, you can fly a plane.
Well,
No,
here's
but
the
if she
thing.
has abilities to do that, maybe. Like, I mean, that's different.
We also don't know what Rey is. If Rey is the Force awakening, if she is what Anakin was, then I think all bets are off here. This is not a person who is judged by other benchmarks. She is the benchmark in the way that Anakin is, and I think that's a trick.
I had a horrible thought because she is really what we should have had an Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah, well, I think that's
This
the whole
ultimate
idea.
good person who is great with the Force. Now, I hope they do not do this because it would piss me off. But imagine if she fell to the dark side.
She won't.
No, but
she won't.
that would be
Oh, yeah, like that
horrifying. It
would-
would gut wrenching as an audience watching that.
Well,
but
that'd be cool to watch,
imagine that's
that's where they're
what
going.
They had, or imagine that's what they had done with Anakin. Created a character that we loved so much, and then had him fall. Then the redemption of Vader at the end
Would have meant
been,
something
it would have
even
meant
bigger,
something.
yeah.
Exactly. I really hope they don't do that to her because
Yeah.
I like where
I'm
she
going
is.
to call it now. She has to die
I
in the,
don't know.
in the 9th one. She dies
think?
to bring Force back, or sort of balance back to the Force.
I mean, Anakin managed to bring perfect balance to the Force.
Essentially, yeah.
Anakin killed all but 2
Exactly.
dark and light Jedi.
That's right.
Job's over.
What about Daisy Ridley herself? My God, she's good.
Oh, I think she was lovely. Yeah, I
Yeah.
really liked her performance. I think she absolutely killed it,
Yeah.
and she's carrying the entire series now.
Yeah.
And that's big. They're talking about her playing Lara Croft in the Tomb Raider
Oh,
reboot.
really? That'd be
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, and I think Daisy killed it. She was wonderful.
Yeah, she was great. I mean, and just even as a person, you see her in interviews, and the most endearing thing I've ever seen. Have you seen the bit where she's watching the trailer for the first time?
Oh,
And she's crying because, oh my God, it's so amazing. You're like, oh, you're perfect. Like,
Yeah,
that's
you're
the
doing
kind
this
of woman that's
perfectly.
amazing. You're awesome. Yeah, did a fantastic job.
Finn's reaction to the trailer is pretty great as well.
I've seen his as well.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, overall, I mean, I think, like I said, I think it's my favorite of the Star Wars. Rey has got to be my favorite character so far. Any other thoughts before we wrap it up on this?
Oh, I'm excited by who they have doing the next 2 Star Wars scripts, because the if you've seen Looper, Rian Johnson is a really talented storyteller, and he's writing 8 and 9, and he's directing 8, and I think it's going to be pretty special. That guy has a lot on his plate right now to deliver something different, because we've seen the same, and we are all comfortable now that we're going to get Star Wars movies that we will enjoy. And so I think Rian Johnson has a huge responsibility, and I think he's the right person to shoulder that.
Good.
And then Colin Trevorrow has number 9, and
Yeah.
he did Jurassic Park, Jurassic
Jurassic
World.
World, yep.
And you know, not as visionary in that film, but he was also reined by Spielberg quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I feel like it'll be neat to see where 8 and 9 go, because there are some pretty cool storytellers behind it.
Absolutely. Cool. Great. So that's the characters of Star Wars The Force Awakens. And if you enjoy our little talks, be sure to subscribe to this channel, and we'll have plenty more where this came from.